citizens and people. Fine. You don't have to be front and give it information, please. Ladies and gentlemen, the motion in this House today is that this House believes that home nations should financially charge its citizens when they migrate to other countries. Ladies and gentlemen, let us start by looking at what we mean by this motion in the first place. When we talk about these home countries, we essentially mean any country belonging to the developing world. Why so, ladies and gentlemen? We believe that the problem of brain drain is a problem which is particularly endemic to the developing nations, because we believe that the developed nations have it in their interest to lure away the best minds and the hardest workers from these developing nations to their own benefit. Secondly, ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about migration, we believe this should be permanent migration. When you apply for a citizen and you move away to live permanently in some other country from your own developing country. Then when we talk about a financial charge, we believe that this financial charge should achieve two things. Number one, we believe it should be high enough that it should deter these people from leaving in the first place. And secondly, even if people are able to afford because they're super rich bastards, we believe it should adequately compensate the government for all the hard work and the resources that this government has poured into making them the citizen that they are at that moment. We believe that this charge can be highly subjective from country to country due to the vast differences in living standards and economic costs in different countries. Ladies and gentlemen, to understand why we must put up such a radical motion in this House today, we must look at the current status quo. Firstly, we must look at the developed world. We see that due to current demographic trends, what we see is that the developed world is aging way too fast. By the next 20 years, we believe that nearly 40% of people in America will be over the age of 60. This presents them with a very basic problem that they won't have any more young workers to work in their industries. Secondly, ladies and gentlemen, we see that there is a vast difference in living standards in the developed world and the developing world. Ladies and gentlemen, we see this is incentive that this developed world used to lure away workers from the developing world. So we see that there is a vast outflow of workers from the developing to the developed. The situation is so dire, ladies and gentlemen, that in parts of India, people have to resort to makeshift doctors on the side of the road because there are no more trained doctors left in the country. We believe this is the kind of problem that is afflicting developing countries as a result of brain drain, the lack of skilled human capital. Ladies and gentlemen, we believe that this problem has turned into a vicious cycle, and we believe that governments around the developing world should take a step to stop this, ladies and gentlemen. Therefore, we wish to deter this migration from developing to the developed and compensate these developing nations for it. And obviously, ladies and gentlemen, when we are talking about this financial charge, we believe it should be paid up front, ladies and gentlemen, before they leave. Yes, sir.
Sir, instead of passing such a radical bill, don't you believe the government should actually develop on their infrastructure and on their services to actually keep these people in the nation, sir?
As that brings me nicely to my first argument, how the government has a right to do this, and why, if it does not exercise this right, the very infrastructure that they want to develop will never get developed. And secondly, Tushar is going to be coming out to you in his own speech and going to be showing you how these people's mindsets are not right, and they have a responsibility to pay back the nation that they were brought up in. Ladies and gentlemen, with that in the House today, I would like to move on to the first argument about the government's right. We believe, ladies and gentlemen, that the amount of resources and energy and time that the government spends in building up a person in terms of giving them an education, and giving them a stable country, in terms of giving them defense and giving them an overall stable enough environment to grow up in, ladies and gentlemen, is vastly undervalued by the very people who are migrating abroad, ladies and gentlemen. Let us look at it on a very simplistically economic perspective. The amount of money that these people pay for their education is vastly outweighed by the earnings they make later on in life, which proves what? The amount of the value of their education is far greater than what they pay to the governments in the first place. Given that the resources and money are severely constrained within the developing nations, it is very important that these resources are allocated efficiently to people who will contribute something back to the nation in the long run. We believe that when these people migrate out, this is not happening. Why so, ladies and gentlemen? Because you see, once you are living in that country, you're doing two things. Number one, you're working for the country. You're producing something that might get exported and get revenue for your country. Secondly, when you make an income and when you pay for a good or service within your own country, you're generating further income along the chain. Basic multiplier effect. You're generating economic activity within your country. So once you leave, ladies and gentlemen, all of these benefits are being missed out on the perspective of the developing world. We see that there's a vast divergence in what these governments pay for these citizens to be and what these peoples end up becoming if these peoples migrate out. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, we see, because these people are failing to add any value back into the economy, what is happening is that these people, there are not enough technical know-how to develop these countries in the long run. Because there is not enough technical know-how to develop these countries in the long run, the economic development cannot take place as fast as it should be. So what happens is, this leads to more people leaving in the long run because they see that there is no economic perspective for them. So we see at the end of the day, it is a vicious circle. So what must be done to stop this at the end of the day? We believe that the government should financially charge them and prevent them from leaving to act as a deterrent. You see, ladies and gentlemen, by giving and imposing such higher costs, the governments ensure that these technical brilliant minds stay within the developing nations and ensure that there are enough doctors, there are enough engineers, and there are enough economists to ensure and to guide this country in the long run. We believe that these bright people, this younger generation who are less susceptible to the ideals of corruption that the previous generations were affected to, once these people leave, the more entrenched these older corrupt people become, and the system becomes worse off day by day. We believe that these young bright minds are needed. And even if these people are severely rich and they leave, the government, we believe, needs to be compensated so the government gets back the money that it has given into them. So that government can reinvest in educating more bright young minds, ladies and gentlemen, and employing it in other areas of infrastructure of the country to ensure that these developing nations do develop in the long run and stop this vicious cycle which promotes the development of the developed world against the development of the developing world. We believe, ladies and gentlemen, this is what we stand for. In summary, what have we given you in this house today? We believe that once a citizen wishes to make a permanent migration from a developing nation to a developed nation, we believe that this person should financially compensate the government because A, we believe it will act as a deterrent, and B, as a form of compensation. We see that there is a vicious circle going on, that these developing nations are failing to develop because these smart people are failing to stay in the country. We beg to put an end to this cycle and to ensure that these developing countries develop in the long run. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to propose.
We have the first opposition speaker. Now, be a gentleman.
Guys, please work on that.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very big case of cruelty presented to us by the Chief Proposition side House Speaker. House Speaker, sir, let's see what they actually tried to promote in the House today, House Speaker. They did talk about this, about not promoting brain drainage, House Speaker, or preventing brain drainage, House Speaker. House Speaker, we see a lack of analysis from the side proposition in the House today, sir. Why so? Let us see why do people actually migrate from one nation to another, sir. They must have a motive, sir. They will not want to leave the root they were born into, House Speaker. The place where they used to live with their family, their relatives, House Speaker. As they cannot migrate with all their relatives, House Speaker. And hence, House Speaker, what we see, when they move out of the country, away from their relatives, sir, there has to be a bigger motive in action, sir. What is that motive, sir? Let us look at what the bigger motive is, sir. Honest speaker, when the government fails to provide us with a job sector, fails to provide us with proper education system, honest speaker, fails to compensate enough to provide us enough education, fails to provide us enough workforce, honest speaker, fails to develop the infrastructure, not taken, sir. Fails to develop the infrastructure, even after we stay in the country, honest speaker, we have all the rights to move out of the country and actually go for a better lifestyle, honest speaker. Honest speaker, sir, let me show you how their points actually are falling down in face right first, honest speaker. They have come up and told me how they will actually pay back when they stay in the country, honest speaker, how they will actually compensate back to the government, which can be reinvested in the economy, honest speaker. Let me see what happens when the people are actually staying in the country, honest speaker. They are not getting the jobs up to the level of their skill, honest speaker, because in the developing nations, as they have stated, we do not have enough skilled job sectors, honest speaker, and hence their earning is low, honest speaker, and hence the tax payment is very low, and hence the government gets less revenue, honest speaker. But when they actually move out of the nation, they have their family members, their relatives in our nation, honest speaker. Even if they have a citizenship there, what they do is they send money back to our nation, honest speaker, and hence foreign revenue increases, honest speaker, foreign remittance increases, honest speaker, and hence income increases, and hence the amount compensated on education sector, on infrastructure redevelopment is increasing, honest speaker. Honest speaker, sir, let me show you how they have come up and given us how a status quo about developing nation, honest speaker. Honest speaker, the developing nation, if they have the capability to provide all those facilities to me, why should I not go for them, honest speaker? If they ensure me security of my life, honest speaker, if they ensure me that I'll get proper education, proper medical care, honest speaker, why not, honest speaker? Why not go there, honest speaker? Nevertheless, the fact that they will be developing further, honest speaker, it is also a fact that I myself will get some benefits, honest speaker. Without my own benefit, I will not think about the developed nation benefit and go there, honest speaker. First of all, I'll see how it's benefiting me and my family, honest speaker. Honest speaker, sir, let me move on to my own constructive ground. What we have in the house today is three basic arguments, honest speaker. We'll show you throughout our debate how the government doesn't have the right in the first place to stop us from going, honest speaker. How they do not have the right to actually financially charge us, honest speaker. Secondly, we'll show you how it's unfair on the citizens, honest speaker, and how it's actually stopping the economic growth, honest speaker. And thirdly, we'll show how it's actually hampering higher education, honest speaker. Me as the first speaker will talk about the first 2 points, and my second speaker will come up and tell you about how it's actually hampering the higher education, honest speaker. Honest speaker, sir, as I've told you in my beginning of my speech, how the government is actually failing to provide us with all the services, honest speaker. Let's look at the status quo of the developing nation, honest speaker. Let's say for Bangladesh, not taken, sir. In Bangladesh, what do we see, honest speaker? The course that could have been finished in 4 years is taking 7 years, honest speaker, because of student politics, honest speaker, because the government is not being able to control those situations, honest speaker. And hence, as a student myself, I can believe to go out there and make a better future for myself, honest speaker. I can choose not to waste 3 years of my life staying here, taking part as of the student politics, honest speaker. Not taken, sir. Honest speaker, sir, what we have seen in the house today is poor, in Bangladesh, we see poor people actually going out of the country, honest speaker, to Middle East and other places where labor is required, honest speaker. They're going out there, they're staying there for a long period of time, honest speaker. They're staying there permanently and sending the money back to the poor, their poor parents, honest speaker. What does it do, honest speaker? It helps the family develop a better lifestyle, honest speaker. It gives the government a higher level of remittance, honest speaker. Foreign remittance being a very big factor in the house today, honest speaker. Honest speaker, sir, when we see the people who are actually living in the country today, they are not being able to actually find the jobs, honest speaker. Government is failing to provide them with proper job, honest speaker. And hence, we believe the people have all right to go out there, make a better future, make the family get food, honest speaker. We just cannot consider the fact that they will starve to death, honest speaker. We will not actually concede to that fact. We do not buy their case at all in the house, honest speaker. Let me show you a different scenario, honest speaker. When we see refugees are migrating from one nation to another, honest speaker. In Syria, people are migrating from Syria to Jordan because not taken, sir. In Syria, they are moving permanently, honest speaker, as they have come up and defined to me, honest speaker. Why so, honest speaker? Because they are in dire need to actually move on, honest speaker, away from the country where their life is safe, honest speaker. The security of their family, not taken, sir. Of the security of their family is main importance, honest speaker. When I see that my life is at risk, honest speaker, what do I do? Do I just stand there and let myself die and my family suffer, honest speaker? I believe not. What we believe to do in the house today is that promote migration on speaker. In the age of globalization, we have alright move on and find a better lifestyle on speaker. Moving on to show you how it's not actually fair on the citizens and how it's actually harming the economy on speaker. On speaker, sir, when we're actually stopping the people from getting out of the nation and we're actually failing to provide them with a proper job sector, what happens is those people, it's actually unfair when they actually are selling their lands on a speaker. Those poor people, they're borrowing money, they're selling their land, they're selling everything they have on speaker. They're putting everything at stake to go out there and make a better future for themselves and also for the country's economy, sir. Yes, sir.
So yes, so they sell all their lands and essentially become the slave of the government of the UAE. Would you want that for your country?
Sir, what you have to see is the status quo in the house on speaker. When you go to a rural side, what you see is those people who are out there in the Middle East, they're earning, sending back the money. Not only they're buying the lands back, they are also earning more money on speaker. They are having a better future. There are numerous occasions in which these examples can be shown to you on speaker. On speaker, sir, let me look at a certain region of the country on speaker. Say in Munshi on speaker, the greater Bikrampur, when the people are actually migrating very often on speaker, they're going to Malaysia, they're going to the Middle East on speaker, they're earning the money back, and now we see that those people out there, those people who didn't have enough food to eat in 2 times on speaker a day, they actually have enough money to make a new house on speaker and have a better lifestyle on speaker. And hence we believe that is what we should promote in the house today, sir. On speaker, sir, let me show you how it's actually harming the poor people and the whole on speaker. When the government is failing to provide me with a job, I was sitting out there on speaker, and in a developing nation, I do not get unemployment rates on speaker, I do not get unemployment money, and hence I don't have any income at all, and my family is suffering on speaker. I have all right to go out there on speaker. The government, if can't help me, cannot stop me either on speaker. Government has no right whatsoever in the house today on speaker. On speaker, sir, let's see how they're actually decreasing the foreign remittance. When these people see that they need even more money on speaker, it will be harder for them to go. It's a natural fact on speaker, and hence they will be demotivated to leave, and hence what will happen is they will sit back in country jobless, homeless, and foodless on speaker. And hence we see foreign remittance is decreasing, people's lifestyle is falling on speaker, and hence we believe the government has no case whatsoever in the house today on speaker. In 12 debate, I have shown you how their case does not stand whatsoever in the house today on speaker, and we have shown you how in some of it actually believes that their case does not stand, and we believe take the debate.
Have the second proposition speaking.
Ladies and gentlemen, we need some sort of clarification is required in the house because the opposition side of the house has failed to understand the model. What we've told you is that we're going to charge those people who actually obtain citizenship in another country. We don't have a problem if they see. We've told you that we're actually charging permanent migrants, ladies and gentlemen, those who are actually applying for citizenship in another country. This was clearly stated by our first speaker. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, we don't have a problem with people who actually migrate to other countries. Because we understand that then the resources that the government has spent behind these people are actually justified because these people are working abroad and sending wealth back to this country. As a result, therefore, in that scenario, it's justified that the government spent the resources on training these people because once they leave, they work and then they send the wealth back to the country. And as a result, in that sense, it is justified. Secondly, ladies and gentlemen, they've told us that they need to find a job sector and motivations and whatnot. Ladies and gentlemen, we've told you that this country, this dire state in this country is right now, is a result of a vicious cycle of the government has formed in. Because the investments that the government made into its people, ladies and gentlemen, which it believes will eventually work in the country, ladies and gentlemen, and then it doesn't do so. Because they find greater economic incentive abroad and then move abroad and obtain citizenship and stay there, ladies and gentlemen. As a result, ladies and gentlemen, the investments that the government made at the end of the day now return to the country. As a result, ladies and gentlemen, what happens is that the bad situations remains bad, and as a result, ladies and gentlemen, it is not able to provide jobs, and all the other bad economic policies that do follow is a result of this. So we say, you know what, stop this vicious cycle and keep these people in this country. Because at the end of the day, what will happen is, if you keep them here, they'll be able to work here, work will come into the country, and as a result, the benefits which have long been depleted, ladies and gentlemen, will eventually start to come in. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, they have told us that, you know what, there are refugees who have a right to actually move to to other countries. We tell you that the very principle on which the proposition is working is that the people have an inherent debt to the government because the government is employing resources behind them. The government is employing resources behind them, the government is giving them the hopes and possibilities of a better future by providing them with education system and so on and so forth. So therefore, in countries where the government is unable to do so, where the government fails to provide them with military defenses, to provide them with the proper land to live, it doesn't apply to the refugees, but people don't have any more obligations to the government because the government is failed. In this case, they have the right to actually move away from this country because the government failed, and therefore our peaceable movement applies their decision. But in the cases where the government is fine, is providing you with the proper education, is providing you with security and safety, why would you leave the government, abandon your government, move off to another state, obtain citizenship, and stay there? We believe it's principally wrong to do so. Ladies and gentlemen, they've told us that, you know what, some people actually sell their lives, over here, lockdown lives, and go abroad, We tell you that, you know what, if this we tell you that at the end of the day, this government identifies the fact that, you know what, a lot of labor actually travels from this country abroad, and I've already told you that there is a justification in allowing them to go abroad, because at the end of the day, there's do and well them, and thereby justify the government resources that the government is spending. But, ladies and gentlemen, we also have to understand that at the end of the day, we will not allow the more richer section of the population to actually have the money to actually pay the government and go abroad and therefore cut down the tie that it has to the government, and therefore the whole principle of them returning the favor to the government no longer applies to the system. So therefore we stop that from happening. The government must stop that from happening in order to think about the greater good of the economy. Because without these people, we can never have the wealth and capital required to provide the better services that the people deserve. With this in the house today, we have to move into the constructive and ask ourselves, what is that we're trying to achieve? Before that, yes, sir.
Sir, if the citizen of the United States of America makes sure that I get a lower express rate at MIT, do you believe I should still stick to do it when the politics rate is so high and actually hampering my education, sir?
Ladies and gentlemen, what you have to understand is this. Even at the end of the day, even if you go abroad for education, ladies and gentlemen, see, we don't have a problem with it because you're paying for the education. But at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, we have to understand that education is not the only factor that is involved in training you. The government not only provides education, but provides you with defensive education. See, I'll be elaborating this more on my second layer of my argument, which is the responsibility that people have to be governed. Now, moving on to my first layer, ladies and gentlemen. Now, we have to understand that people's mindsets, the difference between people's mindsets. Now, why don't we have to make a distinction between people who actually go abroad for migration and the distinction between people who actually go abroad, obtain citizenship, and stay there. See, the mindsets are totally different. For people who actually go abroad for working, they have their families in here, back here. So at the end of the day, when they work, they send their money back to this country. Now, why do we think that it is principally right for the government to not charge these people? Now, see, we've already told you that the government does spend a huge amount of resources in training these people. So the very first economic incentive that the government has is not charging these people is that they are actually fulfilling their end of the bargain. They're actually sending in wealth back to this country. So therefore, it's justified. Therefore, the economic concessions that the government make towards these people are actually justified. Secondly, ladies and gentlemen, what you have to understand is that, you know what, even if this person is not in the country itself, the money that the person does send back helps him on the multiplier effect. We've told you that the money they send back will actually help increase the wealth of the country. The family will have the money, they will be able to spend it in other things, ladies and gentlemen. And when they do spend it in other things, ladies and gentlemen, other people will have an income from that. And as a result, they'll spend it in other things, and the cycle goes on and on and on, ladies and gentlemen. So therefore, there is a greater benefit in this government to allow these people to go abroad and work, and allow these work to come in, because only then is it justified that the economic resources that the government spend on them does return to the country, ladies and gentlemen, in the form of the work that they do send. So in this case, the investment that the government makes is actually profitable and is actually returns to the country. Now we understand that this mindset doesn't work with the people who actually go abroad and stays there. Now understand this, ladies. A person who goes abroad and applies for citizenship, his mindset is to stay in the citizenship and do not remittance in the first place. He would actually eventually move his entire family out of this country and transfer them to that country. See, that person has taken education, the hopes of a better future. The entire country is built him to stay there. The government is built him to stay in his home country and work for them. But that person has taken that from the government and moved off into another country. So in this case, the government is losing out on the great factories. See, these people don't have the mindset to return the money to the government. Ladies and gentlemen, they plan to use their expertise and qualities, ladies and gentlemen, in this new country, ladies and gentlemen, and helping the multiplier effect and all the other economic benefits of their country. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, we believe that, you know what, these people will of people have an inherent responsibility to the government. Now understand this, ladies and gentlemen. Education and all that is not the only things that the government provides to it. There is a huge line of services that the government provides. Ladies and gentlemen, there's medication, there's education, there's military defenses, there's in general the political bureaucracy that the government faces in terms of the people. Now some might say that, you know what, we're paying taxes, ladies and gentlemen, so therefore what the government gives us is a service, ladies and gentlemen. We don't owe anything to the government. Now understand this, ladies and gentlemen, if the government did not exist, even if you had money, you would not be able to provide for military, ladies and gentlemen, to save yourself. You will not be able to provide for the teachers, ladies and gentlemen, and pay them who can teach you, ladies and gentlemen, because the government wouldn't have taught the teachers in the first place, ladies and gentlemen. So even with the money, ladies and gentlemen, you will not be able to enjoy the benefits that the government provides you at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen. So at the end of the day, the people do have an inherent debt to the government, because even if you have had the money, the potential to do all this for yourself, you wouldn't have been able to do so because there is no structure for you to tap into, ladies and gentlemen. The government provides you with structure, and as a result, ladies and gentlemen, we tell you because you know what, despite you paying taxes, ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, the inherent truth is that you do owe the government something at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, and therefore you have to pay the government at the end of the day. Now, what have we told this? Told this hospital? We've told you that the people have more responsibility that they might deem to have, because at the end of the day, some people say, you know what, the government is not giving us a service. We don't have anything to give to the government. But we told you, the military government service will not be that, and we have to make a distinction between people who migrate for work and people who want to make a permanent solution. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have the opposition second speaker.
Speaker, today we have a government whose very model that I have proposed is flawed from the very beginning. They have talked about permanent migration here. Now let's look at what permanent migration really is. They have talked about workers going to another country and actually applying for permanent migration. Now let's look at the developing world here. Where do the workers of developing world go to? They go to the Middle Eastern nations like Kuwait and Qatar, where due to the massive oil production shelter, they are able to have massive expenditure and therefore they need more manual labor here. That is where these laborers go to. Now one interesting fact is, even if these laborers do stay there permanently, do stay there over a course of 10 to 15 years, they never do get citizenship, So in the end of the day, the fact that what they're trying to prevent is never happening, that deterrence is not happening in the first place. And they talk about also citizenship, when you go to get higher education in foreign countries, you live there for a long number of time, and you cannot take it, sir. And you get the citizenship even through the course of temporary stay, So over here, you're acting a burden, keeping a burden on a person who didn't want it in the first place, They have talked about brain drain, They have talked about how the bright minds of the country will be going away at the end of the day and not stay in the country. Now let's look at what will happen to these bright minds if they don't get proper education in It is a widely accepted fact, and it is actually a proven fact that in developed countries you can get better education in So if you want these people to actually do something good for the country, you need them to go to the foreign lands and get a better education, and they will of course come back to the country, their home country, and then attribute it to and if you look at the developing countries in the first place, they have to only talk about the rich people who can go there because of the huge amount of money you have. There is a reason these places are called developing countries. That reason is there are not that many rich people. The majority are middle class, lower middle class, and the lower class themselves. These people have to work day in and day out, go through different kinds of credentials, get different kinds of scholarships, and as such to actually be able to go in the first place. They already have a more massive burden to go through in order to be able to go through in the first place to get a better education. When you pass this motion, what happens is that you add an extra layer on this burden on these people without any reason whatsoever, and that is what we, the opposition side, are trying to prevent. Yes, sir.
So given that when I'm in this country, I have a certain degree of economic status and recognition. And when I go to that country, I'll be treated the same as any other outsider working. So why do you think people actually go abroad?
You're almost right here. The fact remains, you have to remember that the Prime Minister of Bangladesh, a developing country speaker, applauded the immigrants. Why? Because 28% of the earning of the economy came from this immigrants, speaker. Now they have talked about what happens if a second-degree economic student from this country goes to that country for work, speaker. Nothing. If the same student had a second-degree economic degree in that country, speaker, from a higher education system, they would consider him as a more potential asset here. You would be treated better, you would be given better facilities, and as a result, you would be able to return more for the country here. There are several factors that determine the development of the economy here. GDP is not the only factor, there's also GNP here, and this is something that the immigrants themselves produce. Not taken, sir. Another point I would like to point out, that's a very important point, speaker. There's a reason these people go out in the first place. There's not enough jobs for them in the country, speaker. There's not enough jobs for them in the country in the first place. The infrastructure development that they keep harping about will not take place because at the end of the day, these people have no job to do, speaker. They're staying here without anything to do, without any earnings whatsoever. They're not able to feed their family and they're not being able to do anything whatsoever. So they don't go to there because they have a better job. In fact, they don't even know if they're going to get a better job. But they know the fact, if they stay in the country and wait for the eventuality, they're going to die instead of getting a job. This is a fact of extinction versus whether you can live for another day. This is the act of desperate choice. These people go there because the government in the developing house is not sufficiently capable enough to provide them with jobs. It's the government's fault in the first place. Not taken, sir. Now moving on to my own constructive education. If you look at the education, you can never compare the education system of the developing country to developed countries. Can you really say that a degree in this country would be priced as much as a degree from, let's say, Harvard or MIT? If you look at it in that way, these people need that higher degree to get a better status in the country. These people will eventually come back to the country. Why? Because everyone they know, their relatives are over here, the friends are over here. Nothing is. And they will have to come attach to criticism. And in a way, they bring more developing to the country. What they talk about is self-dependent, but what we, the opposite side, that are going to a foreign country, by studying over there, what you can do is bring the managerial skills, the education from that country to this country. That is how you have your education system improve. By bringing the education, by bringing the teachings from there to here, to make sure that the people are more efficient, and that is why they get to work better and earn a higher living. At the end of the day, if you look at education-wise, a developed country simply is too much to compare developing countries to, and that is why if at the point of monetary gains you're talking about, and if you talk about the fact that how these people will be treated in the first place, you have to notice that getting a degree from a higher education, a higher university from a developed country will suit the country better on, and that is why we deserve to take this debate home. Now what we, the government side, opposition side, have come up and proved to you is very simple. We have come up and showed to you how the government has no right to put an extra burden on these people. They are only talking about rich people, where clearly in the model today proposed in the developing house, the majority is the middle class and the lower middle class. These people don't have sufficient money to start with. They have to go through a lot of processes, scholarships, and as such, to be able to go in the to get a higher education in the first place. And they over the time courses, and they stay there. They see that they get more benefits that will allow them to earn more for their relatives, send more for their country. And that is why if you put this higher burden in them, they have a harder time dealing with it. They have a harder time going to the foreign nations and actually making a difference to the country on the figure. If you look at the developing world as a whole, they get most of their revenues from taxes and earnings sent from outside the country, sent from these developed countries. So you see, the citizens that we're sending to the people people that are going, and in the end, because of the hard time they work, they become citizens. This is needed for the development of the country itself, and that's why we have to take this debate. Thank you.
Do not become citizens of Dubai, ladies and gentlemen. That is what they have
agreed upon, the second speaker of the House has come up and agreed upon that very fact, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about permanent citizens who go to a foreign country, gather a permanent citizenship and live there for the rest of their lives. On top of this, ladies and gentlemen, let us consider to what they said about students. They said that at the end of the day, students go to a foreign country for higher education because they do not receive better education in their nation. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to rebut that in too many ways. Number one, ladies and gentlemen, we do not have a problem with students going for higher education in a foreign country, but we do not have a problem with that because at the end of the day, when they go to a foreign country, they get a student visa, they study, and they come back to their country. That is what we want, and that is why the country is failing at the end of the day. Because these students, because they do not come back, because at the end of the day, when they do not come back, the country loses, ladies and gentlemen. That is where we have a problem with it. On top of this, ladies and gentlemen, they talk to us about remittances. How at the end of the day, they're going to, these citizens who go for permanent citizenship are going to repay that with remittances. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let us consider the entire factor of remittances as a whole. Now, which particular group of people send back the highest percentage of remittances? It is these workers who migrate to foreign countries. Now, these workers at the end of the day are not permanent citizens, ladies and gentlemen, first of all. Second of all, those who are permanent citizens, the amount of remittance, the percentage of remittance they send back is significantly low compared to a worker, ladies and gentlemen. We do not have a problem with that worker, we have a problem with that bastard who does not send back enough remittance, who does not repay their liability to the state. That is what we have a problem with, ladies and gentlemen. On top of that, ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, what we see, the main problem we have with permanent citizenship is that they do not, once they acquire permanent citizenship in a foreign country, they at the end of the day do not give a rat's furry behind to the country that they have left alone, ladies and gentlemen. That is the very problem we have, ladies and gentlemen, with these people who acquire permanent citizenship. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let us analyze the liability they have to the state. Now, ladies and gentlemen, why do both sides of this house consider they have a liability to the state? Because, ladies and gentlemen, as has been analyzed from our side of the house a number of times, they have a liability to the state because the state has invested upon them, because the state has provided them education, provided them public service, provided them military service, provided them defense, law and order, ladies and gentlemen. All of these, at the end of the day, signify to such an amount, multiplied to such an amount that cannot simply be bought back by remittance, ladies and gentlemen. On top of this, as has been continuously analyzed from this side of the house, the education that they have gained from this state at the end of the day, the education that they have gained from this state is heavily undervalued, is at the end of the day could have generated the state high income had the state within their own home state in a developing world, ladies and gentlemen. Hence we believe they have a liability to the state and the remittance is not enough to pay for the liability. Since both sides of the house agree upon that liability factor, we believe they should be compensated for the liability, and we believe by financially charging them, which in itself is a subjective concept, we believe that this liability shall be fulfilled. Yes, sir.
Sir, what do you suggest that we stop these people from going out of the country, and when the government is actually running on their money on speaker, what is the other sources of income for the government in the house?
Sir, the problem that you have is assuming the fact that we are stopping people from going to foreign countries. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, we are not stopping the workers from going to foreign countries. We are allowing these workers to go on the ground that they do not become permanent citizens of the country. Because these workers do not acquire permanent citizenship on the first place, they can send back as much remittance as they want to the country itself. The country will be earning remittances from these workers. We have a problem with the permanent citizens of the country who leave their home country behind, who leave their home investment behind to go to a foreign country in search of a better life, ladies and gentlemen. We believe that the developing country at the end of the day loses. The developing country at the end of the day loses because these people are moving away. These people at the end of the day is a brain drain for the developing country. And moving on to my second clash, ladies and gentlemen, what is the motive for people to migrate in the first place? Now, ladies and gentlemen, this side of the house believes that the motive for a large proportion of the people to migrate is in search of a better life, ladies and gentlemen, is in search of better jobs, is in search of better quality jobs, ladies and gentlemen. Now, to analyze that, first of all, ladies and gentlemen, why are high quality jobs absent on the first place? Because at the end of the day, the investment that the state puts into these people is not generating enough commercial return at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, from an economic perspective, is basically resulting in a loss for the government at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, because they're investing upon these bright minds, because they're hoping that these bright minds at the end of the day would go forward and enable better quality jobs to be promoted in the country. And because these bright minds are not doing that, rather applying for permanent citizenship abroad, hence we believe at the end of the day, high quality jobs are absolutely zero. Hence we believe that proper investment is lacking in these developing countries. Hence we believe that these developing countries at the end of the day remaining developing and are not becoming developed. Now ladies and gentlemen, let us analyze a further situation at the end of the day, another motive. Now ladies and gentlemen, let us consider this case. In Africa, ladies and gentlemen, what happens is, at the end of the day, we have one doctor for every 100 people. Now, if this doctor goes to America, what he will have is, at the end of the day, far lower incomes than he could have had in Africa, far lower status than he could have had in Africa. In Africa, his status was higher than the day. There would be 100 people for that one doctor at the end of the day. In America, this would not happen. In a developed country, this would not happen. Hence, we believe that this motive for migration rather worsens his state. If he stayed back to his country, he could have repaid his liability well, and he could have lived a better social status later. At the end of the day, migrating and applying for foreign citizenship to another country, at the end of the day, is degrading his social status by even a minor amount, even if, ladies and gentlemen. On top of that, ladies and gentlemen, what problem do we have with permanent citizenship? Permanent citizenship, when these people from developing countries go abroad and acquire permanent citizenship, what they do at the end of the day is they pay tax to that foreign government, ladies and gentlemen. They pay tax to that foreign government on the work they do, and the knowledge that they earn for that work they do is from the home country, ladies and gentlemen. And so we believe that they have a liability to the home country, but they're repaying that liability to the foreign country, ladies and gentlemen. What is the logic with that, ladies and gentlemen? We take this debate home on grounds of the fact that principally it is unjustified because these people have a liability to the state and they're not repaying that liability. And second of all, we believe at the end of the day, the very problem is the fact that when they migrate, they actually at the end of the day do not get a better life or more quality life. And we believe that there is a brain drain for developing nation.
Right, they have the opposition with
How can you take this on the opposition
Honorable Speaker, all along what we knew about the word migrate was that migrate is the process of moving from one place to another. Whether they have squared the topic into forming the word into migration, Honorable Speaker, where there is a permanent movement, along, Honorable Speaker, where they put a cherry on top, they put that there has to be a direct citizenship for this, Honorable Speaker, where we see this is a huge case of squirreling, and we believe that, Honorable Speaker, this should be taken into notification. Honorable Speaker, but still, since the debate is going on, let us follow their case, Honorable Speaker, and see what is wrong in their case, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, they have talked about the fact how that these people, when they go out of the country, they're brain draining the country. On that, Honorable Speaker, we believe that when these talented people, when they go to another country, they represent our country rather, Honorable Speaker. They show how intelligent the people from our country can be. Thus, Honorable Speaker, on that, let's follow an example of that, Honorable Speaker. Not taken, sir. Honorable Speaker, Mahatma Gandhi, the father of the Indian nation, had a South African citizenship, and he was educated in South Africa. And this is where he developed his ideologies, Honorable Speaker, that the Indians praise, Honorable Speaker, that the whole world praises in today's House, Honorable Speaker. And if this motion was there in the first place, he would not have been able to do this, Honorable Speaker. So we believe that their principles are wrong in the first place. Honorable Speaker, they have also talked about the fact how the refugees, the government, how they have said that when the government has failed to provide the refugees with their rights, they have all rights to migrate, Honorable Speaker, to immigrate. To that, Honorable Speaker, we believe this is what we have been trying to say, Honorable Speaker. We have been trying to say, Honorable Speaker, that if the government is not able to provide the amount of education I require, the amount that my job sector, Honorable Speaker, we believe that this is where the government has failed, Honorable Speaker. And this is where we believe that our rights of the government, of the people, should stand, Honorable Speaker. To that, Honorable Speaker, they have also talked about the fact about how the citizenship, how the people only who will get the citizenship will take into account of them. To that, Honorable Speaker, we have also, we say, that in developed countries, getting the citizenship is not as easy as team government thinks, Honorable Speaker. Not everyone gets it, Honorable Speaker. 1 in a million gets it. So we believe we cannot take exceptions as examples. So, Honorable Speaker, let us look at the clashes of today's House. First one being whether or not government has the right to take the right away of migration, not taken, sir. And second of all, Honorable Speaker, we believe that whether or not it is fair for the second clash, Honorable Speaker, whether or not it is fair for the people and the economy of the country. Let us look at the first clash, Honorable Speaker. Government has the right or not to take the right away to migrate. Honorable Speaker, they have talked about the fact that how these people will go away and not contribute to our economy. They have talked about the fact how these people are not actually being of any use to the government. Honorable Speaker, they have also talked about the fact that how people should be liable to the government because of the rights and things they provided for the people. To that, Honorable Speaker, we see that the people's needs were not accomplished in the first place. When I want a degree from MIT, Honorable Speaker, I cannot get it from Bangladesh. Bangladesh cannot prosper its universities in a snap, Honorable Speaker. And if I'm not going to MIT, Honorable Speaker, I'm not getting a degree from MIT and coming back, how will I prosper the ideology of the people of the country, Honorable Speaker? How will the ideas develop? We see that, Honorable Speaker, this development will not occur. And since this will not occur, the government in no terms, not taking it, in no terms has the right to take the right away for migration. Honorable Speaker, let us look again at the reason why people migrate. People migrate to have a better life. And if we are not letting them do so, we are violating their rights, Honorable Speaker. And we see that, not taking it, even if in the 1 in a million chance, Honorable Speaker, we are violating the rights, we think this is not feasible. And again, Honorable Speaker, let us look at the squirreling from team government, Honorable Speaker, where they say that where they have come up and talked about exceptional cases, not taken, sir. So, Honorable Speaker, we believe that on principle levels, on moral levels, on every level whatsoever on this earth, the government does not have the right to take the right away of people to migrate. Second of all, Honorable Speaker, it is unfair for the people and the economy of the country. How's that, Honorable Speaker? We believe that once the people have been financially charged for their migration, not taken it, even if they're in that country, they might have put some money, they might have sent some money to the economy. But once they have given their financial charge, we believe that this will deter them from actually sending money back to their country. Because they will think that what sort of country government is this, Honorable Speaker? And the only reason I migrated, not taken, sir, because I wanted a job in Apple. I have the brain and I got the job in Apple. And the country did not let me come. They put certain amount of limitation, Honorable Speaker, to me coming. To Honorable Speaker, we believe that these people will have a very bad mindset about the people, about the government of the country, and thus they will not bother to actually contribute to the economy of the country, Honorable Speaker. And as we have told about, Honorable Speaker, not taken, sir, most of the foreign money we get from this, the foreign investments we get Well, the foreign money we get are from these people. Can we say that, Honorable Speaker? Can we avoid this money? We can't, Honorable Speaker, because our country has something called balance of payments. And if the balance of payments go into deficit, it shows how bad the condition of the country is. And we do not want that to happen in today's house. So, Honorable Speaker, even after the case of a huge squaring, where they have talked about only exceptional cases, we have still gone out with the debate, Honorable Speaker. The boys from Summerfield were proud, were strong. They have shown you how the government does not have the right to actually take this away, Honorable Speaker. We have also talked about how it is very unfair for the citizens. We have also talked about how the economy will not prosper if brilliant ideologies will not come, Honorable Speaker, from other countries, from other nations. We have talked about how the economy itself will be very much affected, Honorable Speaker, because of this passing of this motion. We have talked about also how the students are not getting their rights. Thank you.
Alright, may I have the opposition reply speaker, please?
Ladies and gentlemen, a bunch of paper wasted on a complete redundant case presented to us by side propositions. Sir, let me show you how the case was completely redundant, sir. So they have come up and completely ignored the fact that even after you are a citizen of an outside nation, you still do have the right to send the remittance and government do make profit out of it, Honorable Speaker. They completely ignored that fact. They say, yes, let them send back as much remittance as they want. Sir, let me show you why the government, if they charge this money, will not actually have the right to charge that remittance, sir. Sir, firstly, because the government, when charging financially charging them, is trying to stop them from going out of the country, sir. That means government is giving them the right to go out of the country for a certain level of price, Honorable Speaker. That means the government has sold its rights to that foreign developed nation, Honorable Speaker, and hence they do not deserve the remittance, sir. So they have come up and told us how they will take the full family and full family will get a citizenship and they will live happily ever after, sir. It's not a happy-go-easy motion, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, sir, what happens is the developed nation do not take in every single person who wants to go, sir. And hence we see that all the full family does not go, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, let me give you an example of how the foreignly educated citizens of Bangladesh have actually contributed in Bangladesh, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, sir, the Congress railway station, Honorable Speaker, was designed by a Bangladeshi architect, Honorable Speaker, co-designed by a Bangladeshi architect who was a citizen of the United States of America, graduated from Texas A&M University, sir. We see that when they are highly educated, when they actually have lived their life in that sense, a nation, Honorable Speaker, those developed nations, they have developed a better view of life, Honorable Speaker, a better view of development, and hence they have a better way of developing the nation, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, sir, let us see what happens when the students actually go out for education and they do not choose to come back, Honorable Speaker. Let's see why, Honorable Speaker. Let's see about some of the most popular and most expensive subjects out there, Honorable Speaker, mostly paid subjects out there, Honorable Speaker. Aerospace engineering, for instance, Honorable Speaker, does not have an industry in Bangladesh. Say I go out there, study aerospace engineering, and what do I do by coming back to Bangladesh? Sit here idle and let my family starve to death? I believe not, sir. I believe I stay back there, work there, earn my citizenship there, and actually come send my money remittance back to my family, back here in Bangladesh, back here to my group, Honorable Speaker, and help my nation at a whole, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, sir, what we have shown you throughout our debate is how their fact about brain drainage does not actually offer, Honorable Speaker, and how we have shown you how government has actually lost the rights to actually stop us, Honorable Speaker, or actually demotivate us, Honorable Speaker. And they have conceded to the fact when we brought up the example of Syria, Honorable Speaker, because they say as the government is not being able to provide us with services, we have all rights to move out and government has no rights whatsoever to stop us or demotivate us, Honorable Speaker. And hence, that is what we were seeing, Honorable Speaker. That's what the big opposition was saying when the government is being failing to provide us with what we need. We do deserve to go out there, make a better life, Honorable Speaker. They have come up and actually agreed to the fact, yes, they go out there to make a better life, Honorable Speaker. We have seen a complete redundant case coming up in the House today, Honorable Speaker. Migration be confused with immigration, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, sir, what we have seen from key proposition, Honorable Speaker, is that they come up and completely misunderstood the fact about how our government runs, Honorable Speaker. They have come up and told me that the subsidies they are giving is completely government's fund, Honorable Speaker. Where does the government get a fund, Honorable Speaker? It's not a profitable organization, the money comes from people's taxes, people's remittance, Honourable Speaker, and hence the government is spending money which we gave it to them, Honourable Speaker, which we paid, Honourable Speaker. They have come up and told me how the people out there in the developed nation are paying taxes to those government, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, sir, as those governments are giving me the subsidies now, it is their right to take the tax home, Honourable Speaker, because they are giving me the subsidies, Honourable Speaker. We have shown you how team proposition have come up here today and completely misunderstood this case and presented to us a redundant case, Honourable Speaker. We have shown you how now the facts actually stand up, Honourable Speaker. Their case had no ground whatsoever in the first place, Honourable Speaker. After the first speech from our team opposition, they could not actually build a backbone back up in the House today, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, team proposition believes to take this debate home. Thank you.
I have a proposition to replace me.
Here. Just need some of the water, man. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a pause and take a minute and remind ourselves about what this debate should have been and what we started out to tell you in this house today. We told you in the first place that brain drain is a problem endemic to the developing world. We told you because of brain drain becoming a vicious cycle, these developing nations are not stuck at a level and are not able to progress past that. We told you that there needs to be a stop to ensure that these developing countries develop in the long run. That was the goal that we came here to tell you about. We proposed a financial charge on permanent migrants to ensure that there is a deterrent factor which prevents them from migrating permanently to a developed country, and even if they are rich enough to pay them, it ensures the compensation of the government for all the hard work they've put into this citizen at the end of the day. Ladies and gentlemen, the primary problem with brain drain is a problem that is recognized by both sides. The fact is, without gifted minds within your own country, your country will fail to progress past a level. Therefore, we've told you about without technical knowledge, infrastructure will not progress. We've told you how brain drain leads to a vicious cycle. They've essentially agreed with us when they tell us about when this first speaker comes up and shows us that there is a lack of jobs, lack of infrastructure. Now, what is the solution to this problem, ladies and gentlemen? The solution is ensure that these people stay back and contribute something back to their home country. Ladies and gentlemen, we have given you the solution to a problem. What have they given us in this house today? They've given us petty concerns about three things. Number one, firstly, ladies and gentlemen, they want to talk about remittance and how remittance will fall under our model. Ladies and gentlemen, we've told you the very fact it is called remittance is because these are our citizens who go to the other countries to work there and not become citizens of the developed nation. At the end of the day, they will eventually be forced to return to our country and contribute back. But even while they're away, they are paying us back in the form of remittance. Secondly, students. They take a student visa, go get the best of knowledge from abroad, and come back when the student visa expires and when their education finishes, and they contribute back to their country. So we see we don't have a problem with students either. Refugees, ladies and gentlemen, well, they are only allowed to stay abroad as long as there's a conflict in their own nation. So not really relevant in the course of this debate. But where is the real problem? The problem is with these people who migrate permanently back. As we've told you throughout our entire case, the fact is that the government of your host nation is giving you values and services which are far greater than what you're paying for. I told you how the government gives you greater education which you undervalue. Tushar told you how it gives you military, it gives you safety and all of those other things. Once you do not pay them back, once you go abroad, once you take your own family abroad and pay taxes to the foreign government, you work for that foreign government, the incentive for you or to contribute back to your own country decreases. Therefore, we never see it happening in the real world. We believe that this is a problem enough to determine a change. We believe that our model will be changed enough and will be giving you a path towards development for the developing countries. Ladies and gentlemen, we've seen no major refutation except for the one, but what right does this government strike? Given that the governments gave you education, medication, military, we believe that these governments have every right to charge you and ensure that you pay due compensation. So at the end of the day, which model, which side stands in this house? Ladies and gentlemen, it is clearly Team AKS, because we've given you a problem, a frame rate, we've given you a solution, and we've argued on multiple logical, analytical levels as to why this shall be passed. Therefore, this motion stands.